Hey, beautiful soul. Welcome to Spirit Speakeasy. I'm Joy Giovanni, Joyful Medium. I'm a working psychic medium, energy healer, and spiritual gifts mentor. This podcast is like a seat at the table in a secret club, but with mediums, mystics, and the spiritual luminaries of our time. So come behind the velvet ropes with me and see inside my world as I chat insider style with profoundly gifted souls. We go deep, share juicy stories, laugh a lot, and it wouldn't be a speakeasy without great insider secrets and tips. You might even learn that you have some gifts of your own. So step inside the Spirit Speakeasy. Hey, beautiful soul, welcome back or welcome in for another episode of Spirit Speakeasy. Today, we are going to be continuing on with our Healing with the Archangel series, and we're going to be working with an archangel that is actually maybe the most disregarded, the most ignored, the most, who the heck is that when you hear the name, which is so interesting once you learn more about him. His name is Sandalphon or Sandalphon. It's like the word sandal, so Sandal and then Phon. So Sandalphon, Sandalphon. As you probably know, I believe that angels, guides, those light beings don't necessarily mind how we pronounce their name if it's with the intention of respect and love and gratitude. So don't worry too much about the getting it right. We're going to dive in just a second, but I'm going to do it a little bit differently this time. There has been such great feedback about how much you all have been enjoying the exercises that I've been sharing at the end of these episodes, and I've been trying to mix it up a little bit. So today I wanted to be able to do just a slightly longer and a slightly deeper exercise because we have quite a broad spectrum in our pod squad out there of listeners, our Spirit Speakeasy fam. And there are some very beginners and there are some who have their own practices and are advanced practitioners and everything in between. So we are going to do it a little differently in that I am going to record a separate meditation to go along with this episode if you want to experience it. That way I can do it just a tiny bit longer. My guess is it'll probably be about 10 to 15 minutes, landing likely in the 12-minute range. I haven't created it yet because I wanted to get through the episode with you first. So I will have one of those it's called dynamic contents, where my voice pops in and tells you how to get that exercise. And I will also link it in the show notes. There'll be a separate a link, a page you go to where you can download it. It'll be totally free, but I really wanted to just do that separate companion meditation for this because I wanted you to be able to work a little deeper with Sandalphon. He really is one that I feel like all of us can benefit from continual relationship building with. And in just a few minutes here, you are going to see why. I did really quickly before we dive in want to just make a few announcements, mentions. One of the things is I've calendared all of the free community healings for the end of the year. So all the way through the end of 2024, you can find out and make sure you mark on your calendar when our free community healing sessions are going to be. They're all listed on the website, joyfulmedium.com, in the events section. There'll be a little button. There's a little description of what to expect from our community healings. They're live on Zoom, and then I also send out the replay. So what to expect, how to sign up, and if you want to get the Zoom link and attend, that's where to go. And what else did I want to tell you? So I've also been working on calendaring the podcast episodes through the end of the year. I've been mentioning, hopefully you guys have heard that I've been trying to get ahead of things a little bit. And sometimes I'm feeling more successful at that than other times. But right now, it's really shaping up the episodes that we're going to do through the end of the year. So we're doing this Archangel episode, and there will be one more before the end of 2024. And I think that is giving us a grand total of 6 or 7. I'll link all the previous Archangel Healing with the Angelic Realm episodes in the show notes as well, in case you missed any of those. Last time I missed one when I rambled off, who we've worked with, but let me see if I can get it correct this time. It's been Archangel Raphael, Archangel Metatron, Archangel Gabriel, Archangel Hanael. Who am I forgetting? I have some in mind that I still want to do. Who am I forgetting? I know I'm forgetting a couple, but they'll all be linked in the show notes. I had a note for myself and I was trying to look for it. Hanael, I said. Metatron, I said. Raphael, I said. Oh, Shamuel is the other one. And then Gabriel. So 5, this will be 6, and then one more will be 7. So we're going to do the rest of today, except for the exercise, in the same format. So we'll talk about the meaning of Sandalphon's name, the history, where he comes from as an angelic figure. You'll see why he is so special. And I wish I could tell you why he was so overlooked, but I have no idea why, because he's incredibly powerful. So I don't know why people are ignoring him, but now you'll have the ability to work with him. So the history we'll talk about what he can help you with, like what he's known for, what you might want to call on Sandalphon for. We'll talk about any colors associated with him, as well as the stones or crystals you can work with to support your work with him, how you might feel him or recognize him. Yeah, and then I will also be, like I said, sharing that meditation with you so you can work with him one-on-one in your own relationship building, and so you can have that meditation to work with whenever you want to learn how to call him in and start working with him actively. So I want to first share the meaning of Sandalphon's name. There are two kind of commonly referenced meanings of his name, but again, remember, angels don't necessarily take a masculine or feminine form, but you will see in a few minutes why this archangel in particular is thought of in a masculine form. Now, the first meaning that is often accepted is the meaning of co-brother or brother together. So this is one of the most commonly accepted interpretations of Sandalphon's name. It's believed to be derived from the Greek word, I'm going to butcher this, somebody Greek correct me, Sandalphos, which means co-brother or brother together. So this interpretation reflects Sandalphon's association as the spiritual twin or twin brother of Metatron. That is right, folks. It is commonly believed that Sandalphon is the twin brother of Metatron, and you're going to find out why in just a few minutes. And as you know, Metatron is another very high-ranking angel, both in the Catholic and Protestant and Kabbalistic traditions. And the twinship really emphasizes this complementary set of roles that Sandalphon and Metatron have, where Sandalphon is linked to the earthly realms or our side of things, and Metatron is linked to the more heavenly realms. And we'll talk more about that a little bit later. The second commonly accepted interpretation of Sandalphon's name is protector of the divine mysteries. And this is thought to be from Hebrew origins, where the name could be connected to the word, again, I'm going to butcher this, so anyone who speaks Hebrew, feel free to correct me. It's sandal or sandali, possibly symbolizing the word protector or guardian. And in this context or interpretation, Sandalphon might be understood as the protector or guardian of the divine mysteries, particularly those divine mysteries that relate to manifestation of divine energy into the physical world. That's right, manifesting things from non-physical, that divine energy of creation into the physical world. So you can already, just in this first little section of what the name means, start to see why Sandalphon is such an important archangel to be working with, to be healing with, and to be getting some help from. So let's talk about the history. You know that I like to dive into the history a little bit in these because I find it fascinating when more than one belief system, historical system, system of faith or interpretation recognizes the same figure or the same angel. I think it's kind of fascinating. And so that's why I share this part with you. I know I always mention a little blurb about this. It's with the intention of educating us a little further and opening our minds and having us have a more complete understanding of who this archangel is. It's not to give more credit to or to discredit in any way anyone's belief system, and it's intended with the highest level of respect. So hopefully that's how it'll be taken. So both the Bible and the Hebrew Torah believe or highlight this prophet as a very important prophet named Elijah. And I'm going to make a distinction because there are a couple names. Well, if you've ever looked at the Old Testament Bible or the Hebrew Torah, a lot of the names sound kind of similar. So this prophet's name is Elijah with a J-A-H, and I'll emphasize it throughout just so you can hear the difference and the distinction, but Elijah. So this prophet Elijah, his story is told in the book of 1st and 2nd Kings. So throughout these books, there are stories of Elijah performing miracles and giving prophecies, and ultimately, as the story goes, he is taken up to heaven in a fiery whirlwind, and is often referred to as Elijah's ascension to heaven. So where you can find that, if you want to dive in and do some additional research yourself, you guys know I highly recommend, looking into things that interest you or call you. It is in Kings 2, verses 1 through 11. And the passage describes how Elijah, knowing that his time on earth was coming to an end, he journeyed with his disciple Elisha, which is why I'm being so, I guess, trying to emphasize the difference in these names. And Elisha is an S-H-A at the end instead of a J-A-H. So Elisha, this disciple or student, had been working with Elijah. And as Elijah realizes his time on earth is nearing an end, he takes his student, his disciple, and they are walking together. And as they are walking, and Elijah's explaining to Elisha that his time is short, this fiery chariot appears as the story goes. And there is this like whirlwind from the heavens, is I think the way it's described. And Elijah was kind of raptured or scooped up or taken up with, this fiery chariot and these horses of fire and all this fiery energy around. And Elijah is just taken up in a miraculous ascension without physical death. So if you remember back to the episode that we did, Healing with Metatron, right, working with Archangel Metatron, there are only two angels, two figures that were prophets on earth, that the way their story goes is that they did not experience a physical death on earth. They were the only two that were taken without physical death, so ascension or whatever word you like in there, raptured, miraculously transitioned, and taken to and become termed in archangels, which they're the only two figures that this is said about. So these are the only two angels that have ever lived human lives. How we always talk about angels haven't lived human lives. These are the two exceptions to that rule, Metatron and Sandalphon, or Enoch and Elijah. So that is one of the main stories. Now, the other important piece of this story, of this miraculous ascension in this fiery chariot with Metatron, is who has the fiery chariot. We'll talk more about that as we go. Is Elisha's witnessing this like miracle. So Elisha, who had been, following Elijah, learning from him, he's his student, this is his prophet, he's the disciple, he is the one that witnesses this extraordinary event. And as Elijah was taken up into heaven, Elisha cries out, and recognizing the like incredible, miraculous, sacred significance of this moment, he's like understands what's happening. Elijah's cloak or robe or mantle falls off to the ground, and Elisha, runs in and picks up this robe. And this is not only kind of proof that this has happened, but also signifies this transfer of prophetship or prophetic authority from Elijah to his student disciple Elisha. These names are, it's like a tongue twister. So essentially that also has symbolic meaning of turning over, as the teacher prophet to his student as he transitions to heaven, to the other world, the unseen world, non-physical. So that is where it shows up in the Old Testament. And that also is the same stories would be found in the Hebrew Torah. Now, the origins of Sandalphon in the traditions of Jewish mysticism, which is the Kabbalah, Archangel Sandalphon is rooted in the mystical traditions, particularly in Kabbalah. He's believed to have been the prophet Elijah. Again, same sort of story here, who was transformed into an angel after ascending to heaven, which again, that's what we just talked about, right? So as you know, again, Kabbalah is not my personal practice, so I'm going to limit what I'm going to say here. But through my research, I learned that Sandalphon is also quite an important figure in the Kabbalah. If you're interested, again, I highly suggest you spend some time going down that rabbit hole and do a little bit of an additional dive into those religious histories for yourself. It's pretty fascinating. But from my limited understanding, and of course I'm paraphrasing, but Sandalphon's role is to ensure that the divine energy that's descending down from the higher realms is properly grounded and manifested into the physical world. So he oversees that process by which this divine spiritual energy is translated into physical reality. And he's also ensuring that this divine creative energy maintains its direction, its purpose, its purity. And on the other side of that coin, Sandalphon's other primary function in the Kabbalah is that he acts as, quote unquote, the angel of prayer. He's believed to take prayers of humans and weave them into this beautiful spiritual crown that he then presents to God. So if you, again, remember from that previous episode of working with Archangel Metatron, this is how these stories, again, are overlapping. And again, Metatron was Enoch, and Sandalphon is Elijah, and these are the two that lived on Earth and were taken to be angels. So this may be why Sandalphon is often described as the twin brother of Metatron. So while Metatron is associated with, again, that chariot that we talked about in that ascension story of Elijah, that fiery, really almost like Aries-like energy. So he's associated with this active part of heaven. And Sandalphon is linked to the more grounding earthly energies. So almost opposite sides of the same coin, or twins, right? So in the Kabbalistic tradition, Metatron is associated with the highest point of the tree of life. So if in your mind you're imagining this tree of life with these roots or paths going out, Metatron, again, is at that highest point, and this is symbolizing the crown or that pure divine will. And Metatron, again, if you remember from his episode, is also known as the scribe of heaven. So guiding that divine energy from the top down, that tree of life. And Sandalphon, then his role is complementary at the bottom of that tree of life, grounding that energy. So Metatron filtering it in through the top, it coming down through these realms into the earthly realm, Sandalphon at the bottom, bringing this divine energy through this tree of life into this earthly realm and grounding it into our planet, into our experience, into our energy. So together, Sandalphon and Metatron represent this full cycle. Those of you that have been with me, or anyone, and know the grounding exercise, this is a lot like energy grounding, those exercises and visualizations that we do. So it's that complete cycle of divine energy from its highest down to its most concrete form in the physical world. So, and actually this duality of their roles also symbolizes that duality and perfect balance of divine masculine and feminine energies, where Metatron would be that active, fiery, more quote unquote masculine energy, and Sandalphon would be that grounding, nurturing, transmuting, manifesting earth feminine energy. So that is in, as it relates to the Kabbalistic tradition. So the way I feel is whichever text you prefer, whether you take it literally or whether you take it as a mythical, mystical parable, Sandalphon's story is really this profound narrative of not only spiritual elevation, but also divine intercession, right? Because it's that chariot just comes and just swoops him. And it's also a connection between heaven or God or angels and the earth, right? Because of the way this story of transition happens. So it also highlights and connects with this belief of this transformative power of having a spiritual relationship, of having a relationship with a higher power of your understanding or the universe, and really is a metaphor or literally a story for potential for humans to kind of transcend our earthly limitations. So this leads us to the next area that we're going to talk about, which is exploring the qualities represented in Archangel Sandalphon. So hopefully you are starting to see why he is, in my opinion, one of the most overlooked and a really amazing archangel to be working with. But wait until you hear what he is known for and what he can help us with. There's some overlap here. I've separated them into two separate sections, but it's not so black and white. So keep that in mind. So what Sandalphon is known for, which might make sense to you since we've been talking about the way he grounds that energy into earth, transmutes it, and helps create manifestation, is Sandalphon is associated with being the protector of earth or a protector of earth. So again, grounding that divine energy, and extending to a broader role as protector and guardian of earth and nature. So that is one of his roles. And even in the research, I learned that in the Kabbalistic tradition, Sandalphon is often invoked in rituals and in prayers related to like environmental issues, agriculture, the natural world, things like that. He is also often known as the messenger of prayers, like we were talking about. So Sandalphon is known as the angel who carries the prayers of humans to God, acting as a divine intermediary, which in Old Testament times, and in the times of the Torah, that you needed this intermediary. So he represents an intermediary of taking prayers to God on behalf of humans. He is also a lesser known, maybe, facet or thing that Sandalphon is known for is being a patron of musicians. So kind of patron saint or patron angel of musicians, and is often associated with music and the arts. And he's said to, I said he takes these prayers, right? But he's said to weave prayers into musical threads and transform them or transmute them into this celestial symphony. As we know, we often talk about here that the spirit world doesn't necessarily communicate to one another in words, but it's in frequency or in energy. So you could imagine, even think about, when how many people in the world, for example, do daily gratitudes or think once in a while about things that they're grateful for. Imagine those thoughts and feelings and sentiments of gratitude going out as prayers. And imagine Sandalphon receiving all of the prayers of humanity of gratitude and braiding them with different frequencies and different tones into this incredible celestial symphony. How beautiful is that to think about? So that is one of the things he's known for. Now, what does he help us with? So many things. One of the great things to work with Sandalphon for, or that Sandalphon can help us with, is balancing spiritual and physical. So, it sounds like something's going on outside here. In Kabbalistic practice, Sandalphon is often called on also to help individuals balance their spiritual aspirations with their physical lives. And it's, again, if you remember when we do the guest episodes, that's kind of woven into one of the questions about, your quirks, but it's, even though we have these spiritual gifts, we have very human lives, all of us. So how do we make a balance or weave together this, these spiritual aspirations or callings or interests that we have with our physical existence? Sandalphon. This includes also like grounding spiritual experiences so that they can be integrated into our daily lives, rather than kind of being these abstract mystical experiences that we have. Because even if you have a mystical dream, for example, there's application to your life. So Sandalphon helps with that. He is a facilitator of growth of all kinds. And I realize I didn't mention, but the reason I keep referring to him as he is because he lived as a man in the world, as this prophet Elijah. So for me, maybe this is why, but even before I knew this about him, he felt masculine to me. And I did years ago, like I told you, I would kind of meet with or call in the archangels and learn about them and then go research them. He always felt masculine to me. And then when I saw, oh, okay, he was the prophet Elijah, it just kind of made sense. So that is why the he pronoun, but I don't think he would balk at a they them either. So whatever you like. So Sandalphon is a facilitator of growth of all kinds. And while he's deeply connected to nature and to earth, he also plays a role in our spiritual and personal growth, right? Because if he's transmuting divine energy into energy that can be received in this realm, why wouldn't he be wanting us to grow and to expand so that we can better use and integrate that energy that he's helping to bring to us, right? So you can call on Sandalphon for help with elevating your consciousness, transforming your physical and material concerns into spiritual growth. Yes, we have to do the emotional processing, but I think if you're listening here, probably you're also available for how can I grow from this situation, right? Most of us don't like to be in a victim mentality. So yes, we're processing emotions of situations that happen, those that we liked and those that we found challenging, but we're also wanting to grow from them as people, as human beings and in our lives and spiritually. So he can really help facilitate that. For me, I often think of Sandalphon as a wise mentor. I have an image of him based on the tarot card, the Hermit, from the Radley Valentine Archangel Tarot deck. What's it called? I think it's just called the Archangel Tarot deck. I have one down here beside my desk that I'm trying to see the side of the box of. Yeah, I think it's just called the Angel Tarot, actually. Radley Valentine. The one I have also includes Doreen Virtue. I think she's taken off of those boxes now. So if you wanted to see the actual image, you could just Google that. But I'll explain to you what it is. And actually, the Hermit is the card that Archangel Sandalphon is associated with in the deck. So it's one of his cards. And essentially, if you think about a wise sage mentor, for me, in my mind, he often sort of resembles like a Lord of the Rings Gandalf type figure, a masculine figure that looks wise and elder and sage and often has a long beard and robes and a staff. And just think of the mountain that we climb as individuals in life with our own struggles and learning and growth and expansion and the way we are ever evolving as individuals, right? And think of that as this mountain. And since he's already, lived his human life and kind of transcended, if you will, think of him as this wise sage in this little cabin on top of this large hill or small mountain, there with a lantern, just standing over, looking over the path up the mountain, holding this lantern out with love, with care, with compassion, not trying to change your journey for you, not trying to judge you about your journey, but just holding out a lantern as a wise sage, teacher, helper, mystic prophet of the past, holding that lantern out to help guide others on their own path so that they may find the way for themselves. So that is how I really feel him and mentally picture him. But it's not that he doesn't have strength to him, because he does, but I feel him as such a compassionate, wise, sage mentor who like has lived it and knows it and has sympathy and compassion, but can really help us in a gentle, yet grounded, sturdy way. So that's really how I imagine him personally. You can get whatever mental image of him you'd like, but I just wanted to share mine with you. And I want to share a few of the things also that you can call on and lean into Sandalphon for. Because, like we were talking about, he really cares about your personal development, your spiritual growth, those things that you are called or feel drawn to focus on. He can help you with an enhanced meditation and or prayer practice. Some people like the word prayer, some people don't. So some people prefer the word contemplation or offering loving energy to the universe. So let's just call it meditation. So he can help to enhance these types of practices for you. Even if you have a mantra practice, for example, or a mindfulness meditation practice, whatever you got, he can help enhance it for you. If you're seeking, like, for example, a deeper connection during meditation or prayer, calling on Sandalphon can really help ground this experience for you. You can also call on him for support in times of confusion or uncertainty. Remember, if you picture him at that base of that tree of life, Sandalphon's grounding energy is, of course, especially beneficial when we're feeling lost or uncertain. Again, that sage with the lantern, right? He can't magically fix it for you, but he's holding out that lantern for you to continue forward and find your way. So if you're feeling unstable or you just want a little assistance with someone providing some energetic stability, if you need clarity, or again, are just feeling lost or uncertain, Sandalphon is amazing for that. And another thing is, I think we all are very aware of things like global warming and environmental concerns. Sandalphon is wonderful if you're wanting to do any sort of like environmental healing practices. For me, this even includes your own gardening or tree planting or things like that. Or if you want to do a beach cleanup or a park cleanup, or even if you pick up a piece of trash. So any version of environmental healing. And when you're working on projects related to the environment or nature, invoking Sandalphon's guidance can really bring insight and support, and additional love and healing. Or to extend that, it doesn't have to just be to nature and the earth. It can be when you're trying to bring a spiritual or healing practice or spiritual or healing gift into the world, right? Because he's grounding that energy into the world. And really, for manifesting anything that is truly in your highest and greatest good, Sandalphon is an incredible, wise sage and mentor for that. Because remember, he transmutes that non-physical energy, that divine creative inspiration, into the physical world. So he can, in that way, help to add power and support to things that you're wanting to manifest and create in the world. He can help you call forward those necessary ingredients to manifest something that's truly in your highest and greatest good. I'm going to talk a little bit about the colors associated with Sandalphon and then the stones associated with Sandalphon. If you guys want me to dive in and do an entire manifestation episode, I will. Let me know your thoughts on that. You can either drop it in the comments or email me about it, joy@joyfulmedium.com. I love manifestation work. I sometimes get a little hesitant about it only because, like I was saying, Sandalphon's amazing to help with manifestation, but it has to be things that are in our highest good. And it's also not like a magic spell. It's like we have free will contributions. There are lots of factors that happen in. So that's why sometimes I'm hesitant to talk about manifestation. But again, Sandalphon is a wonderful support and alchemist. So let me know your thoughts if you guys want a separate episode about manifestation. So yeah, a wise sage mentor. Now, when we're talking about the colors associated with Sandalphon, I'm going to tell you what the internet says, and then I'm going to tell you what it is for me. And what it is for you might be totally different. Remember, I always encourage you to be pursuing your own experiences and your own relationships, particularly like with the archangels, for example. So if you do a meditation and you experience Sandalphon in a different color, just make a note of it for yourself in like a little journal or diary, or even an electronic note section, for example, just so you can remember and sort them out. But the internet says colors associated with Sandalphon are turquoise, which symbolizes calm and tranquility, and the various earthy tones like browns and greens, of course, representing his connection to earth. For me, I experienced Sandalphon in bright, deep yellows, into kind of like those mustard, like fall tones of yellows, those shades. And also, I experienced him more in like the earthy browns, grays, copper, and silver for me. Now, the stones associated with Sandalphon, I almost just said Metatron. I'm so aware of Metatron as well right now. The stones associated with him are often going to they're often going to be based on the colors associated with them or the properties or qualities that archangel brings. So that's no different for Sandalphon. For me, I'm going to start with for me. For me, I really like citrine with Sandalphon. I don't think I have any citrine in arm's distance. I've moved some things around, but it's that yellow. Sometimes it's seen with white as well. Sometimes it's seen polished, and sometimes it's seen raw. But if you Google the word citrine stone, again, think of it like lantern on top of a mountain. Citrine is about illumination and wisdom and boosting confidence and receiving inspiration. So for me, I will often work with Sandalphon with citrine. I also really like smoky quartz with Sandalphon. Smoky quartz is kind of, again, don't have any of that arm's distance, but it's this grayish. It's exactly what it sounds like. So instead of being clear quartz, it's smoky. It's grays and almost into black. It's beautiful. And not only does it anchor that energy, and grounding, it really helps with balancing and really helps bringing inspiration in, like to the light, to the top of our mind, for example. So I really like smoky quartz. Hematite is also great. It's that red stone, or hematite or hematite, some people will pronounce it. It's red, it's grounding, it's protective, it enhances focus and concentration, and it really helps support the sense of security and making it easier to connect with earth energies. Think like root chakra, that base red chakra. Moss agate is also really lovely for working with Sandalphon. And I'm giving quite a good list. Like there's a few more on this list even. Don't feel like you have to run out and find all these stones. I give several just so that you can find one of them, hopefully, near you. And I often try to give like different price points of them too. So some of these you can get for under $1 for sure for a little one. So don't feel like you've got to have all of these to work with him. It's just if you come across one of these and you wanted to add it to support your meditations with Sandalphon or whatever you're journaling, whatever you're doing to work with him, that's why I'm giving so many. So please don't let it overwhelm you. Is a little asterisk note here. So moss agate is, it almost looks. Well, I was going to say it almost looks lacy, but then I was like, oh no, that's lace agate then. So if you're curious about what it looks like, just search moss agate. It kind of looks like a naturally occurring moss, but it's on the stone itself. That stone is really associated with nature and growth and the qualities of the earth. It's a stabilizing stone that promotes peace and tranquility and emotional balance. So that's why that's really great. Copper, which is a metal, is often associated with conductivity and conducting the flow of energy, which again, Metatron is, Sandalphon is bringing that flow down, that Metatron is ushering down, and Sandalphon is really transmuting and grounding it. So if you think of copper as, conducting the flow of energy. You can think of Sandalphon as also conducting the flow of energy, right? So copper is thought to amplify thoughts and intentions and help in channeling spiritual energy into the physical world. So that is why it makes sense for copper to be associated with Sandalphon. And what's really interesting is it's one of the tones I experience him in. So I was not at all surprised. I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense for me. So that's kind of cool. And again, just a little reminder here, all the archangels are bound by our free will choice and our highest and greatest good. So don't expect them to like magically, make things happen for us, that we're not willing to take action and choose and do the work on this side that's required, or something. Even if we think it's in our highest good, they may know that ultimately, this timing or this version, for example, are not in alignment with our highest good. So I just like to throw that in there, just as a little reminder. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about how you might feel or recognize Sandalphon. And then we'll talk just a little bit about how to start having your own experience. And then, you can also get that extra meditation if you want to start building a relationship with Sandalphon. So how you might feel or recognize Sandalphon. The internet people have reported having seen turquoise orbs in association with Sandalphon. I would think that was really cool if that would happen. So I'm going to be available for that. Hello, Sandalphon. If you want to send us some turquoise orbs as hellos in our life, I'd be willing to receive that and perceive that. It's not something I've experienced before, but that's just me. So that is one way you can experience Archangel Sandalphon. I sometimes imagine almost like fireflies with Sandalphon. So it's almost a continuation of that, how I was talking about him up on that hill with that beautiful lantern, that glowing lantern of like divine wisdom. I imagine it almost like these little fireflies, which I realize not everybody knows what that is. They're also in some places called lightning bugs. It's a little tiny bug that lights up in the night, in the summer, in certain parts of the United States. And I don't know about other places. But these little fireflies for me often have these little threads of light, of copper light that kind of trail off of them in my visualizations of him and when I work with him. So for me, I sometimes see these little fireflies with energetic threads of light trolling behind them. I sometimes will see it when I'm working with him or when he's supporting something. That is just me. That might be part of your experience and it might not, but I just like to throw some little extra things in there. There's another thing to consider. Color perception. So some people report seeing flashes of color, and like I said, particularly turquoise, green, earthly colors, like those more earthy tones when Sandalphon's near. And the colors that are associated with his energy can appear, like some people, like I said, see them as orbs or flashes, but for most others, like most people will experience these colors either like in meditation, in their mind's eye, kind of, if you were to close your eyes. And for some, like I'll see the actual colors behind my eyes. For some, it's just imagining the color almost is how it feels. Or in their meditation, they'll just have a sense or an experience or a thought of the color. So that's how it is for some people. But often it's in your mind's eye. It's often not like out in front of you floating, for example. I think that's the exception. The rule kind of is more, it's usually more subjective or more internal, your mind's eye. But there's no real right and wrong, but I like to set your expectations appropriately. So since Sandalphon is often associated with music, you might also hear soft, etheric music in your mind, or notice songs with like significant lyrics playing at certain moments. So that's another way that he can guide you or that you might experience him. And this can be his way of communicating. It can also be his way of just trying to uplift your spirits or trying to kind of tune your energy. And for some, this music, which I'm using that word loosely, might even come in as like tones of sound. So it might be musical. It might sound like etheric, very gentle, sweet, loving music. But for others, it comes in as tones, almost like when you have a bit of a ringing or a humming in your ear in the background. Not painful, but low. It can come in like that sometimes. And it's more of a sound than music per se. I'll say in the way we typically like commonly talk about music, I wouldn't identify it as like music per se. It certainly could be music, but for me, it's more just very low, and often like low as in quiet, and often high pitched tones. And if you do experience loud tones, just imagine requesting lovingly for them to just please turn that down a little bit. That's what I do, and that seems to work. So yeah, you might hear or sense or understand him through music as well. He might also show you symbols in meditation. So during meditation or prayer or contemplation, or like if you do a mantra on a mala bead, the 108 beads, for example, or pray a rosary, for example, you might see images in your mind's eye. It might feel like you're imagining them, but you might have mental imagery of like earth or trees or mountains or other natural scenery. And that can indicate his presence. If just your mind is moving to beautiful nature scenes, that might also indicate Sandalphon's presence with you during meditation. Another thing to consider or be available for is synchronicities with natural elements or encounters with natural elements. Like, for example, if you don't have a loved one on the other side that you associate butterflies with, it might be when yellow butterflies come around you, you know that Sandalphon is near or saying hello or working with you in those moments. Might be like finding feathers or stones, or seeing repetitive symbols in nature like spirals or ovals, like almond shapes. So remember that if you go back to the Galen Gregory Hogue Divine Sacred Geometry episode with we're talking about, the different symbols and sacred geometry. Maybe you're seeing some repetitive patterns and things in nature around you. This can also be a sign of Sandalphon's presence. So if you are ready to start having experiences with Sandalphon, which I highly recommend, there are a couple ways you can do it. Again, I'm going to create that separate meditation for you and share the link in the show notes. And also, I'll be emailing it out. So make sure you get on my email list, which you can do on the homepage of my website, joyfulmedium.com. But you can just go into meditation. You can use any of the previous Archangel episodes that we've done, which again, those will also be linked in the show notes. But there are meditations or short experiences at the end of most of those. You can use any of those and swap in Sandalphon for whatever Archangel is intended in the episode. But if you're someone who meditates or wants to try meditating, you can just imagine your personal space bubble, which is your auric field, but it's just that egg of your personal energy. And while you're sitting, you can imagine grounding your energy into the earth and imagine calling or inviting Archangel Sandalphon in beside you, and get a sense of which direction he comes from. Get a sense of if there's any colors you notice or are aware of in that moment or come to mind. Don't search for them, just be open. And this can take several different sessions. It might be one little bit of understanding in each little meditation and kind of piecing them together. And then just imagine him sitting there beside you. And as you're doing that grounding, right, then continue that grounding that you're doing. Imagine rooting your energy into earth, and ask him to assist you and see if you feel any difference, because he's helps with grounding energy into the earth. So that's one just quick little way. But also, again, I'm creating a separate, deeper guided visualization experience. It's going to be totally free. And I am going to do one of my personal exercises. One of the ways that Sandalphon came to me, actually, when I was looking at and thinking about and working with Sandalphon about this episode and what I should share with you, I was reminded of one of the first experiences I had with Sandalphon. And what happened in that meditation. So I'm essentially going to share with you and walk you into an experience that I had myself, and one of the ways that I work with Sandalphon personally in my work. So it's a little bit deeper. I know a lot of you listen on the podcast when you're busy and doing things and jetting around and working out, and not great time to meditate or do visualization. So I will link in here a separate little link that you can go pop over and grab that free meditation and download it and work on it for yourself. Well, I hope that you have learned a bit about Sandalphon. I hope that you are intrigued in thinking about him in relation to his twinship with Archangel Metatron. I know that's been really an intriguing thing about him to me. And it's one thing to, be supported by angelic energy. But it's a whole different level, I feel like, to work with Sandalphon as an archangel who specializes in grounding and transmuting that energy into our world. So I think he is really incredible. He is such a beautiful teacher and mentor to work with. He has a very strong and grounded, yet gentle and kind feeling energy for me. And I just love leaving you with that visual of him as the wise elder sage on the mountaintop, holding the lantern for you, inviting you with no urgency, but just as you're ready, step by step, beckoning you on your own journey and trying to light the path a little bit more for you on your way. So let me know in the show notes, or let me know in the comments, rather. I do the show notes, you do the comments. Let me know in the comments, wherever you're listening or watching this, your thoughts about Sandalphon. I would love to hear your experience when you go do the additional Sandalphon meditation of how to work and be with him. And let me know your experience there. He's a really profound archangel to work with. And I'm so happy to share what I know and what I've learned about him with you here today. So thank you for joining me for another episode of Spirit Speakeasy. Again, remember to go to the events section of my website, joyfulmedium.com, to get yourself signed up for all of the free community healings through the rest of the year to help us manage through all of these wild energies. You'll also get the weekly readings sent directly to your email as part of that. Totally free. And what else do I want to mention before we close out here? I'm so excited to be riding this roller coaster with you through the end of the year. We have some amazing episodes still to come for the rest of this year. Some people and information that I'm really excited to share with you. And if you are enjoying Spirit Speakeasy, I would love it if you would subscribe wherever you're listening, whether it's my YouTube channel or my website, or if you are listening on any of the amazing podcast platforms out there, Apple Pod or Spotify or any of the places, if you would subscribe and leave a rating. I would love it if that could be 5-star, if that's how you feel about us here. But it just helps the podcast a little bit as I'm looking forward into just the final months of this year and the beginning of next year, and sort of planning and thinking about my vision for my work and what I want to do. I really appreciate all of you supporting the podcast, those of you that listen, and those of you that send me kind little messages, either in email or in the comment sections, about how much you are really loving the show and how much it means to you. And many of you have mentioned things personally to me, and I really appreciate each and every one of you, your energy, whether you're listening, the day that this is released, or whether you are listening days later or downloading these, which I always appreciate. Really know that your energy means so much to the continuation and the inspiration and the creation of all of these episodes. So lots of love for me as we head right into October, just around the corner here. So big hugs, lots of love. Bye for now from inside Spirit Speakeasy.